Some land-related issues, the Vumelana Advisory Fund, which is a non-profit organization that helps beneficiaries to develop their land in a sustainable manner, says that the process of land reform far exceeds the resources of government or any independent entity. The fund says investors' appetite for the land reform program can dampen this process. Brian Whittaker is the director of the Vumelana Advisory Fund, and he joins us in the studios in Johannesburg. Brian, good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming through. Just before we get into the nitty-gritty of, the discussions that will be held on the 31st, talk to us about the fund, the main objective behind the fund.
So the Vumelana Advisory Fund was established to help communities who win their land under the land reform program to put that land to productive use. One of the difficulties with the land reform program has been that while it is an absolute necessity for us to have such a program, very often, once the land is transferred, the land becomes dysfunctional. Yeah. People can't use it, they can't get access to capital, and our job is to try to help them put their land to use in a way that will help them create jobs and income and improve their lives.
And at times they even go as far as selling that land. Yeah, but how does the fund go about assisting them in, making the land productive?
Well, any party who believes that they could benefit from our assistance can apply to the fund for support. That might be local communities, the government does so, it might be advisors who know of communities. We then assess those proposals and we decide which ones need assistance. The way we provide assistance is by giving to these communities advisors who will help them structure partnerships with people who have access to capital and skills that they need to develop their land. Getting these partnerships properly structured, we think, is critical for the future of land reform.
All right, but how have things been? I do know that back in 2013, there was a partnership between the fund and the Department of Rural Development.
Yes, that relationship continues, and we receive many requests from the department to provide assistance to the department and to communities. And we worked on a wide range of projects. Some are in the tourism sector, some in agriculture, some in forestry. And in all of these cases, what we're trying to do is to make sure that communities who wouldn't otherwise get access to resources can do so that they can put their land to effective use. None of this is easy.
Yeah.
So there are always hurdles to be overcome. And we think the absolute key, though, is to make sure that you have properly mediated relationships between communities and investors so that both parties can gain.
All right. I wanted you to talk to us about those hurdles and challenges that you usually come across.
Well, the kind of difficulties I think that we have in the land reform program is that on the one hand, it is proceeding too slowly to meet post-liberation expectations. And on the other hand, much of the land that is transferred is not improving the lives of the communities who gain access to the land. So when the current minister first became minister, he said at that time the country had transferred about 5.9 million hectares. We've now transferred more. But his concern was that the bulk of that, he said then about 90% of that, was no longer productive.
Yeah.
And the kind of hurdles the communities run into is that when people lose access to their land, they lose much more than the land. They lose access to finance, they lose access to skills, they lose access to the networks you need to make land effective. So to give back just the land and expect the communities who also have lost all of these other things to be able to use it effectively doesn't work.
It's a challenge.
And those are the hurdles. The hurdles are for how do these communities now find the finance? How do they get access to markets? Where do they get the skills? What the Vumelana Advisory Fund does is help them structure partnerships with people who already have access to finance, markets, skills, and so on.
All right. And on the 31st of this month, there will be a discussion with some stakeholders. Talk to us about who are these stakeholders? Is it perhaps possible investors?
So what we're doing on the 31st is holding a round table on a set of scenarios that we produced about a year ago. And these scenarios were developed because we were concerned that it's very hard to see down the road as to where land reform is heading. If it's not going fast enough and much of the land is not being effectively used, what does that mean? Where does all this go? So we decided that we'd pull together a diverse scenarios building team. Consisted of about 40 people. It had senior government officials on it. It had investors on it. It had advisors on it. It had traditional leaders on it. It had communal property. So a very diverse range.
Yeah.
And it's that range of people that we're now going to go back to and talk about these scenarios.
All right. Now, Brian, I'm afraid that's where we're going to leave it, but hopefully everything will go well with the round discussion. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. There you have it, the conversation about land reform. It will take place on the 31st of January at the Wanderers Club here in Johannesburg. So if they want to become part of it, are they welcome to join in?
They can call our office.
They can call your offices. Okay, then you can call the Vumelana Advisory Fund offices for more details on that. All right, Leanne, it's over to you. You're talking some motor show.
Yeah, indeed. We thought we'd end off the show on a good note here this morning. One of the biggest and innovative motor shows is set to take place in Cape Town this coming weekend. It's dubbed the Cape Town Motor Show. One can expect auto and accessories, exhibits, competition, vehicles, antique and collector cars, and much, much more. This family-friendly event promises to be packed with more than 25,000 spectators that are expected to attend. To tell us a little bit more, we are joined by the event marketing director, Garth Rhoda, who's in our Cape Town studios. Garth, good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So